My apologies, folks. I'm hoping that this fixes this problem temporarily, but Spectrum is having and not admitting to problems that they have. And it has to do with the modem. And I may have to get a new modem, but I think it's deeper than that, even. So sorry about that. Hopefully, the signal will hold up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. How's everybody doing? It's Victory Monday, which we don't get to say very much after week one of the NFL season, but sure enough, there it be. And I wanted to thank everybody for the reaction to the halftime and post-game shows yesterday. Literally over 1,400 people have watched the program over that period of time, which will tell you the support. That's for this type of a small program is an impressive number. We don't promote the show, and the show is so vulgar in so many ways. I can't begin to tell you. And I hope David Talevsky is able to join me. And if there are some people who are in the wrong place, anybody who wants to tweet out the proper location of this on YouTube, I've done it twice. But feel free to do that so that more people will understand that the original address that I gave, we weren't getting a proper signal, and I didn't want to just keep getting cut off like I did the other day. The most interesting immediate news is that we got a little help. Literally help from the Ravens and the Steelers, and it's not the kind of help they wanted to give. Basically, a day after the Ravens have lost J.K. Dobbins, and he, of course, tore his Achilles, John Harbaugh said the team is not going to look to add a running back outside the organization, and they're going to stay basically with Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and bring Melvin Gordon III off their practice squad. That is very much like the Stonewall thinking of Harbaugh. It works for that organization, but we'll see how it works this year for them as more and more pressure is going to be put on Lamar Jackson to throw the football. And as of the first week, he was there at 177 yards, and that ain't going to get it with a 374 rating. That ain't going to get it. Also, big news regarding next Monday's game. Cam Hayward, who's been a beast against the Browns, is going to miss at least a few weeks with a groin injury. Lamar Chase was sucking his dick too hard. Nah, I won't go there. But Cam Hayward has really been an impressive force against the Cleveland Browns, but he's not going to make the game, and he could be weighing over options, including surgery right now. It's interesting how many people are ready to jump on Deshaun Watson's performance, but, you're not saying shit about Joe Burrow. And I find that very interesting. And I'm going to address this right now because it is the first foremost thing with the program today. And of course, we know that Jack Conklin is out for the season. We knew that when it happened. This is the kind of pre-game publicity. Do you hate the fucking vulgarity, kid? You wouldn't be here if you did. This is before the Sunday's game, and I'll read this contract. I'll read this article. Joe Burrow turned down his parents' offer after signing historic contract, and I'll just read this. Joe Burrow became the highest paid player in NFL history this past week when he signed a 5-year contract worth $275 million. Burrow's parents reached out to the Bengals quarterback after he put pen to paper. They wanted to celebrate, or at the very least, stop by his house to congratulate him, but Burrow told them no. Joe is only focused on the Browns, Joe's father said. That's just how he is. Even this past week, we were in Cincinnati. We wanted to stop by his house to see him for just a few minutes. He told us no. It's a fine line between being studious and being a prick. When his parents reached out to him, Burrow was studying film. He wasn't going to disrupt that process, even for his parents. That's just Joe, his father added. It's like that all the time. Even for home games, we stay at his house, but we aren't allowed to come over until he leaves for the hotel. We don't see him until after games. He's super focused. Now, this is before the game. And I'm not questioning his preparation. That isn't the point here. But the film he was looking at was meaningless. That's what you call stupid. Why? I mean, you're going to sit there and say, well, I'm just looking at this. I'm going to add David Talevsky here. Hi, David.
Hey, Moo.
Good. I'm glad you found your way back. But this is incredible to me. Oh, what a studious guy Joe Burrow is. It's like, man, he's like the real deal. Check it out.
It's funny. Seeing on the national analyst today, it's like nobody gives them credit. It's just how bad he and the Bengals were.
Yeah, and with Deshaun Watson, it's like, oh, he's just a natural athlete, and he doesn't work hard at this. No one ever says Deshaun Watson works hard at it, but the white guy, Joe Burrow, works hard. It's Larry Bird. Michael Jordan was a natural athlete, but not Larry Bird. Larry Bird worked so hard. When was the last time you heard about a black athlete being credited for being dedicated?
Not often.
How do I get to be an analyst on the program? All right. Jim, all you have to do is go to the YouTube address, which I think I might be able to put up here. This is where we are right now. And look at the show description. There's a link. Click on the link and you'll be transported right into the studio. It's just as easy, as easy could
as Sunday
be.
Morning.
What?
Easy like Sunday morning.
That's exactly right. We try to make this simple, even though Spectrum sometimes tries to make it hard. I don't know that Burrow is one way or another, but this notion of, the Browns better look out because he's looking at the film. It's like, what did the film tell him? You know what the film didn't tell him? That they were going to take away the middle of the field from him. The film didn't tell him that his little bitty hands were going to get wet and the ball was going to squirt out of him. Didn't tell him that the footing on the field was going to be bad. There's only so much preparation you can do because the unexpected is all part of the game. That's just the way it works.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Listen to Colin Cowherd earlier, him and his little dick-pulling buddy, so to say. They was using the wet ball excuse for Joe Burrow, but they didn't use that for Watson. It was, no, Watson just stunk.
Yeah, and again, this is what I call hate speech because there wasn't anybody. I mean, if you were going to judge Jerome Ford, what a disappointment, right? That's the guy. I mean, the guy carried the ball, 12 times last year. I mean, and he didn't have any preseason. And he and Watson didn't have any timing. And they haven't practiced together. That's just the way it is. And, you got to have a little bit of patience, for God's sakes.
I think we could say the same for Marquise Goodwin.
Marquise Goodwin was running fast, but I don't think that Marquise Goodwin is a great hands receiver, okay? Mm-hmm. None of his statistics would show that he's caught everything that's thrown at him or that he's had prolific 1,000-yard reception seasons. He's a guy who's a change of pace guy, And they really ran a great play that got the ball back into the quarterback's hands, and Deshaun underthrew it. Everything, but the ball still went through Goodwin's hands, but it was thrown too late, and that's a timing issue. And when you're running a play like that on a track that's slower, it's going to throw and slow everything down. Now, am I going to tell you that Deshaun Watson is as sharp as he was when he was in his prime and playing countless years in a row for Houston? No, I can't answer that question. But it is amazing how every excuse in the world will be given to a guy like Burrow. And the truth of the matter is, the Browns kicked their ass for 4 quarters. That's the truth. It isn't Joe Burrow. It isn't Mixon. It isn't anything in particular except the Browns defense beat the shit out of the Cincinnati Bengals for 4 consecutive quarters. And if the game had continued, it would have been 4 more. And the reason that they're not saying that Joe Burrow's hurt. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, by golly. I figure that's fair. But it turns out that the way that Schwartz designed the defense was to force them into the sidelines. I thought all those sideline throws that he was throwing, the fades, using, trying to get the ball to T. Higgins and to Chase down the sidelines, was because maybe he was just having trouble pushing off on that leg, and there wasn't a single ball that he bulleted down the middle of the field. Well, it turns out that the strategy was to have safeties in the middle of the field who are there invisible, and for one-on-one coverage by Ward and Emerson, and then to do all kinds of interesting front 4 things, including lining Myles Garrett up right in front of the center on a couple of occasions, and doing all kinds of stunts, changing guys who were, what side of the line of scrimmage they were on. And it was totally baffling. And if you believe that Joe Burrow has seen everything and that he is the next, and you can name Joe Montana, you could name Aaron Rodgers, you could name any number of people. He wasn't smart enough to figure this out, and he had 4 quarters to figure it out, and he could not. And that is the encouraging part of the story here on Monday, is it was the call of the defensive coordinator who was given the autonomy to make the decision, and that's the defense that he came up with, and it worked perfectly. And you know what else it did? Go ahead, David.
Would you expect that he's going to use that same strategy for this upcoming game, or would you expect something different?
I would expect something different. Now, here's what it did. And, why? Because there are many different ways to go after teams, and to go after Pickett might be different than going after Burrow. Not from a pass rush perspective, but taking a look at the receivers, it was a big risk, if you look at it, that we were going to end up on an island, that Emerson and Ward were going to end up on an island against, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But it really worked to our advantage that it was a slow track. It really worked to our advantage that it was hard to get downfield and hard to get the ball downfield. Both quarterbacks were bouncing passes into their receivers because the ball was heavy and sliding out of their hands. And it worked. Now, would it have worked if it wasn't raining like that? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever really know the answer to that question. But it sure baffled the hell out of Tyler Boyd why he wasn't seeing the ball in the middle of the field. And the answer is it always looked covered. And it was so tempting to go for the mano a mano on the island, especially when you got, the big dicked Jamar Chase, who's going up against Lilliputians, according to him, little elves. I mean, what better thing could you give him than one-on-one with these little midgets that are covering him? It didn't work. And what this did for the Cleveland Browns secondary is it said, you know something? Emerson and Ward and Newsome, we're going to let you cover men, not just areas on the field. All this Joe Woods thing is way somewhere in the past. We're going to give you an opportunity to actually cover your man, and we have faith in you. This is the best the secondary has looked in, I can't count how many years in a game. I can't remember since Dixon and Minifield. We just, these guys were just shutting everybody down. And Delpit, when they found him on trying to do a fade on the sidelines, what a remarkable play he made.
That was one of the best games I've ever seen him play as a Brown.
I mean, getting his hand out to knock that ball away, perfect technique. And that makes these players so much more confident that it's like, hey, they see what we do well, and they're going to let us do it. Now, with Pittsburgh, the weather's going to be different, and you may want to attack it differently. The fact that Cam Hayward's out and that he is not going to be playing, that helps us tremendously. On the other side of the coin, we got DeJuan Jones having to go up against, Watts.
Yeah.
And Watt is has been disruptive as hell. And this is the kid from Ohio State who didn't have a single pressure in his senior year at Ohio State coming off him, right?
Yeah. He did lock down Sam Hubbard. I mean, Brian Baldinger showed the film of that. He had Sam Hubbard on lockdown.
And, I guess it's almost too much to ask for one guy. They're going to have to really, and with Cam Hayward out, at least that's going to help if we need to chip to give him help because, the game started out and, looking at it now, having watched it a second time, I think we were throwing the ball too much to the beginning of the game. We weren't running it enough to establish that.
Well, they kind of admitted they had to change the game plan because of the weather, so they kind of went back to the old scheme.
Right. So, I think I'm just reading some of the comments here. Jim, yeah, but he almost ripped out his knee in the process. It was a dangerous kind of thing. Well, what was so funny is being where I am, I mean, it was a little overcast. It never rained here.
It didn't rain here either.
And it didn't rain anywhere except over the stadium, it appears.
Yes, there was actually a radar map that someone showed. Like, there was like little spritz of rain, and it was like lakefront rain, and it was directly over the stadium. And that's all there was.
Thank you, Jesus. For once, a great break for the Cleveland Browns that even the referees couldn't take the game away from them. And people were slipping and sliding all, the nearer their destination, the more they were sliding away. There's a lot to be excited about. But all of this, Joe Burrow is this, Joe Burrow is that. He could not recognize what the Browns were doing. And this is his third year. So yeah. Wonderful strategy, and give credit to the corners for doing what they were supposed to do. And I'll tell you, Emerson, he has length. And by forcing those balls to the sidelines, he was in better position in a lot of cases than the receiver was.
He was close to getting a couple picks.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the neighborhood, man. But right on, guys. There was no way those passes were going to be completed. It would have been impossible. So, again, reputation is one thing, but like I said on Friday, it's not a matter of how good you were. It's how good you are. And I'm not going to say that the Bengals aren't good because they lost their first 2 games last year. But you cannot rest on your laurels in the NFL because this is a different group of Browns players. We had much more interior line pressure on the running game and the passing game. We had much more penetration than we've seen in years. This had to come as a real surprise to the Bengals. So
Emerson sat there and said in his interview today he feels that we have the best quarterback trio in the league.
And that may well be the case. It may be Emerson could be a guy who's just kind of come out of nowhere. I noticed they're starting to put a tag on him. Did you see what they were calling him?
No.
Oh, who is the defensive back? Who is such a great defensive back? Who is the big island stopper in the NFL?
Oh, I don't even. Oh, Jalen Ramsey.
Yep, they're calling him Baby Ramsey.
I just saw that today, actually.
Yeah, and it's going too far. But again, he looked good last year as a rookie when he was forced to play when maybe he wasn't ready. He looks better this year. And hey, the defensive backs could have slipped and a touchdown gone behind him just as easily as the other way around. The Browns were locked in and they did what they were supposed to do. And again, it's how good you are. And when somebody like Jamar Chase, who's had one 100-plus yard receiving game in his history against the Browns, and the other times just mediocre performances, continues to insult the Browns organization, it's a sign of immaturity, and it's a sign of being a real knucklehead. And again, you start believing these headlines as if Joe Burrow's head in a book and watching film is the difference. And it wasn't the difference. It's how hard you play, how much you believe in yourself. The Bengals aren't going to give up and say, oh, God, we just got beat by the Elves. Although one guy will say that. It's going to come down to what happens in the weeks to come. Are they going to have narrow escapes and those types of wins? Are they going to have another loss? I mean, we go into Pittsburgh. If we can go into Pittsburgh and win that game, and I know people say, what do you mean if we should be able to kill them? It's like, it doesn't work that way. You don't get any freebies in the NFL. And on the road, you don't get anything in Pittsburgh. We know that. So, what's the situation here? If we get them to 0-2 and we're 2-0, more than anything, that's 2 home losses. That would be 2 home losses for the Steelers in succession. And that's something that does not usually happen to them. They're going to have to do everything they can humanly do to defeat the Cleveland Browns, because you get behind early in this division and there ain't going to be no coming back. And then it becomes a 3-team race, and we'll see what happens in Baltimore with the alleged passing game that didn't develop in week 1. But again, I'm not saying the Bengals are not going to be good. What I'm saying is I've seen teams go from being really good. And I mean, everybody was surprised that the Rams did so well yesterday because they weren't the year before. I mean, and it's like the Rams were a top tier team in almost everybody's estimation. But, and they looked like it again yesterday.
This division, now I'm thinking about it, I think these first 2 weeks is probably going to decide who the front runner is, because today he's hosting Baltimore this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's
that's what
it's going to be interesting. All I say is one game doesn't make you, But I'll tell you one thing: if you come out and you lay an egg like the Browns did last year in your home stadium, and like the Steelers did yesterday, it puts the fans on alert, especially if it looked like they laid down and they didn't play hard, they got down on themselves. There's only so much magic that the press can give you, only so much magic that history can give you. You got to play the games now. And we'll see what Pittsburgh looks like when we get there. Again, go ahead.
I think Cincinnati's going to kill Baltimore. That's just my feeling. I don't think they're going to be any threat to them.
Well, I mean, I'm interested in seeing how a transition of the quarterback position in Baltimore actually happens, because I'm not sure that it really can or will happen. I mean, we'll see. He's a unique talent who's got unbelievable mobility, but injuries adding up. Burrow has injuries that are adding up too. Guys young in their career, eventually they have to become like Randall Cunningham did. They have to, even if they had began with extraordinary Donovan McNabb, extraordinary physical capabilities. Eventually you got to become a pocket passer. You just can't take the hits week after week, year after year. It doesn't work. We talked about Nick Chubb a little bit in the post-game show, and just quietly, averaging almost 6 yards a carry. And it didn't.
Sounds like a day at the office for him.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is the cutbacks. I mean, there are plays where there wasn't anything in front of him, and he just patiently waited for the crowd to go by him and cut back the other way and would get himself 7-8 yards. And that's what he does. He has inordinately good vision. And, what I said in preparation for the game, that I felt the Browns had to run the football to be successful. When I saw them come out to passing, it's a siren song. It's going to lead you into the rocks, because in that weather, and to put that kind of pressure on Deshaun Watson, just because the fans are screaming, "Oh, he's making too much money," it's not smart. The Browns are built to be physical, and the Browns defense now is being built to be physical. And, you have to figure out ways of getting separation from your wide receivers. And that's why the gadget plays. And like I said, the one with Goodwin almost worked, because he had his man beat by about 2-3 yards. And he's running well. But,
yep.
Again, it was hard to catch the ball for everybody. That one looked like it went, I don't even know if it touched his hands. It looked like it went literally between his hands.
I think it might have, like, the tip of his fingers, maybe.
Maybe. As far as the defense was concerned, even Stefanski said the story of the day is our defense. I just gave Jim Schwartz the game ball because that defense was outstanding to hold that offense, and I have a ton of respect for that team and that offense, that whole team in general. But to hold them to 143 yards, 2 of 15 on third down, it was very impressive. But they only got 6 first downs the whole game.
I would have loved to have come into that Pittsburgh matchup as the top defense in the league, but the fucking Cowboys kind of got in the way of that last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another team looking for respect, and a quarterback in Dak Prescott, who's trying to have some kind of a season because people have lost confidence and faith in him in Dallas. According to Myles Garrett, the defensive scheme and game plan went according to plan. While the Bengals threw some adjustments that they weren't really expecting, Garrett felt like they adapted on the fly and executed the scheme properly. They were able to... Go ahead.
The one thing I got to say in terms of Myles, I think Jim Schwartz is finally going to make him into the leader we need him to be.
Well, he did look good when we needed him on fourth down, didn't he?
Uh-huh.
And I like seeing him lined up in different places because it's not so damn predictable to be able to double him. And it was also great seeing some other guys getting behind the line of scrimmage from the interior of the line. That's always exciting. We forced quick throws up in the air. We didn't get an interception, but we damn well could. If we put that kind of pressure up front on Pickett, you're going to get interceptions.
Oh, yeah.
Or fumbles. It's the Mason Rudolph show. And you got to get to them quick and convince them that yesterday wasn't a fluke. They got to bring their big boy pants. And I expect them to be as dirty and filthy as they can possibly be. That's what I see. They're going to late hit. They're going to try to taunt. They're going to try to get the Browns to come back at them like that and be the ones called for the penalties.
Yep.
And,
desperation moves on their part.
Yeah. And, Daniel Jones was the only reason that guys like Pickett and others were not picked on is because Daniel Jones was so bad that all the focus went to him. He's in New York, and God only knows when you're in New York, you get a lot of attention, especially the wrong kind of attention. You can ask Zach Wilson about that.
Oh, Ryan Tannehill was actually worse yesterday.
Yeah, I heard that too, that he was horrible.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I thought it was really nice though. Amsterdam, that David Bell did his homage to Anthony Schwartz by letting the ball hit him in the chest and bounce to the ground. I thought that was very generous of him.
A touching tribute.
Yeah. Yeah. Dustin Hopkins, another name that you remember what a professional kicker looks like. I'm not saying that Dustin Hopkins is the answer because he doesn't have a big booming leg, but everything came clean off his foot and went straight down the middle of the goalposts. And, every week it's week to week. We know the life of a kicker is up and down and whatever. That's the way it's going to be for Dustin Hopkins. But on this day yesterday, he was really good. Really good. And Bojarquez was good too, with the exception of one bad punt. He was booming some good kicks. So the special teams, with the exception of the opening kickoff return, did a really good job, and that's really nice to see. And on punt returns, even fair catches, we weren't getting, pushed in the back penalties, blocking from behind, all that shit that we've been getting for the last couple of years with Prefer now that he's gone. And I think the Browns did what they had to do to make this a physical game. And I think if I were to say Cincinnati, I don't see as a physical team. I see them as a finesse team, a team with fine skills. And I think there's the sheer power and speed of the Browns game really disrupted them.
Physical always beats finesse every time.
Yeah. And I don't see Cincinnati having a bunch of tough guys, a bunch of guys who are not like the Steelers and the Ravens. They're a different type of team, and they can hurt you in a lot of ways. And I'm
built the same way the Rams are.
Yeah.
Their offense is similar.
Right. But they didn't adjust and adapt to what was happening on the field on Sunday. That's for sure. Yeah. Is that what we're calling him now, Tom? Kenny Pick Six?
Works for me.
Works for me too. I want to get pressure on him because he's not very quick. And if we can get him to take his eyes off the field to see what's coming at him, he's a dead duck because he has no escapability. Neither does Joe Burrow, by the way.
Yeah, he doesn't run at all.
And I can tell you this. Well, he did when he was a rookie, but that got put to a very fast end. On that fourth down play where they sacked him for a 13-yard loss, and Myles Garrett just got through. I mean, he saw they had a chip on. They had two men, and he did a spin move, and he just split the two of them. And right as you could see that he was going between the two guys, Burrow saw him, and it was like, nah! And he immediately started rolling to the right. Once he rolled to the right, he was dead meat because he couldn't stay in the pocket. He would get crushed. And he's so slow now that it didn't matter. Myles Garrett just went between the two guys and looped behind him and just caught him. And that was that. Ball game. So that was fun to see. It was, and also the Jim Brown flag, you know?
Yep.
And I was really looking forward to the Jim Brown flag to see if it was like a silhouette of a woman being thrown off a balcony. But such was not the case. But Nick Chubb leading the charge out of the locker room with the Jim Brown flag. Everything was just right. Everything was just right. Double P now comes up with, Kenny, pick the grass out of my helmet. All right. This is getting out of control. Oh, God. I'm just looking at what people are saying because the chat room is moving faster than I am. My goodness. Amsterdam saying, are you enjoying Northeast Ohio's exchange rate? Moving from Florida is like moving to Mexico on bang for your buck. It's very true. If I were to get, I'll give you an example. And I'm not going to name restaurants because I don't publicize things on the program. But to get, I had a steak, a salad, and hand-cut fries, and it was a 12-ounce delicious sirloin strip steak for $21. That same thing's going to cost me twice as much in Florida, Amsterdam. Seriously. Every dinner that you have out here, it seems like the magic number for the early bird crowd is $10, and it goes $10 to $16, $10 to $18 for dinner. You can't find that in Florida. It doesn't exist. So yeah, it's amazing. And it's welcomed because you get tired of being overcharged for things. And but man, there are a lot of sports pubs in this area, and they're all serving the same thing. And I've now lost 19 pounds since I came to Ohio, which is great. It doesn't show because there's so much more to go. But I don't want to eat the fish and chips that every sports bar has. Fried is the rule here in Northeast Ohio. So I got to try a little harder. Yeah, right. It's called Sonic, Rick. Sonic went out of business because people said, fuck that. That's not food. That's not food. Sounds like the late Kevin Meaney. That's not food. Oh, God. And you're right. The homeowners are getting screwed on their insurance in Florida. I'll tell you a story. And I'm not breaking any code by doing this, but I will be generic. All right. Homeowners insurance has doubled in the last just couple of years, and it's going to go up again. And people are going to have a choice as to they're going to have to drop their hurricane coverage because that's what's even more expensive. It's really crazy. But the property taxes is really where the ripoff is. I know somebody who purchased a home, and their annual, and it was a 2,400 square foot home, and they paid almost $1.5 million for a 2,400 square foot home. All right. I will tell you that I am in a 4,400 square foot home. All right. And the difference in taxes is just insane, just absolutely insane. I paid way less than half of the $1.5 million for 4,400 square feet, and in 1 year, the property taxes went up on that house from $13,000 a year to $19,000 in 1 year, this past year. That's fucked up. That's totally fucked up. So yeah, I'm enjoying Ohio for a lot of reasons, but the people are friendly here. I got to be honest with you. Really, really friendly people, and much more so than in Florida. People are a lot more open and willing to chat and all that good thing. I want to point out this article from Cleveland.com, because sometimes there is something that's cogent. And the Browns players are saying our defensive coordinator gave us the opportunity to just cut us loose. And that's big props to Schwartz. He knows what type of guys we have up front, and he utilized it. I see David is back. Hi, David.
Yeah, I have my phone in my pocket, and I touched something, and it switched me back to Twitter, so I dropped out.
Oh, something must have poked it.
Maybe.
You're
Sorry,
supposed
to... I got a little excited.
Yeah, that's right. You see, you're supposed to jump on it like women do. Forget it.
Takes me a while.
Yeah, that's right, man. I just kind of felt that there's an opportunity there, you know?
Sorry, when you're on the autism spectrum, it takes a little bit to figure things out.
Yeah. Mark Ross is jumping in. I love it when we get information. According to Adam Schefter, Chris Jones and Casey agrees to a new deal. You know,
yeah, just a 1 year deal.
Yeah, 1 year. That's
it.
Yep.
That's all they're giving him for now.
Oh, okay. Here we go, R. Jones. Jimmy Haslam, if he purchased the Guardians on his ideas. Let me tell you something here, R. Jones. Woo! We already got the analytics people in here. And D. Podesta, he already knows baseball. That's why he left. Woo! I'm gonna bring him back in, and we're gonna get players in here. I'm willing to spend the money because I'm a dumb Southerner, you see? And D. Podesta will convince me why a 225 hitter is worth paying $75 million for. Woo!
Didn't D. Podesta already work for the Indians at one point?
Who knows who he all worked for?
Good point.
And what does Bruce Brennan think of what? Ken? Because I'm willing to do Bruce. I love Bruce. I really do. I do this because I love. I'm not criticizing him in the least. He's good guy. Think of what? I don't know. Until you give me more information to go on, Ken, I can't do Bruce. On Jimmy buying the Guards, you know, it was just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. Losing begets losing. And they hate Cleveland. I'm going to drown him on his new lakefront. That's what I'm going to do. I hate you, Haslam. Oh, God almighty.
I haven't listened to Bruce Drennan before, but he eerily sounds like Mark Munch Bishop.
Well, then Mark Munch Bishop is imitating Bruce Drennan. Now I'm of course doing caricatures. Like if I really don't do Dickie V much because I'm afraid Dickie V we're not hearing anything, and that's never good news. When you don't hear about somebody who's got cancer, but if I'm doing oh baby, oh, it's a real diaper dandy. Now that was him 30 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more recently, he kind of came down here, and it starts going Bill Clinton-esque, oh, baby. Oh, I've lost half my voice, and so I'm trying to get excited about this, but I'm watching Wagner College, baby. They can't do this to me.
Yeah. Oh, take a look at them cowboy cheerleaders.
Oh God. Is he? That would make me feel very, very good. He's on Instagram. I'll have to check that out, and I hope he is doing better. Same thing for Jim Donovan. Nothing but the best wishes, and I'll tell you what chemo does to people is damn near as bad as what cancer does to people. It's a real difficult thing.
Yeah, it reminds me, like years ago over here on the radio, you probably know this name, but we had Matt Patrick.
Yeah.
He because he was a smoker, he got the esophageal cancer, and eventually he just stopped. Yeah, he stopped treatment, and then shortly after that, he passed.
How long ago did he pass?
It was 2017, I believe.
Wow, I didn't even realize. Yeah. Esophageal is like the worst.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are many different types of cancers. Pancreatic is terrible, what Patrick Swayze passed away from, and esophageal cancer is really fast, and there's nothing.
He was only 58.
That's just, and Jim Donovan. I just wish him the best, and he has fought the good fight 11 years after the bone marrow transplant, and I just hope.
The real sad thing about it, outside of Steve French, all the rest of the people that are on the waking crew with him, they've all passed.
And I saw too the aging that takes place. It's cruel, honest to God. What chemo does, it changes the way people look even. I mean, that shit's toxic. And, I'm going to say something that sounds mildly holistic. And I'm a very scientific person. But, the fight against cancer has gone on for too fucking long, and we're not making any real important changes. I remember when AIDS was, the mass death disease. Mm-hmm. And the answer to handling AIDS wasn't to cure it, but to, in essence, allow the body to live with it.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think that if there is a future, not in my lifetime probably, but if there is a cancer treatment, that it is going to take into account, instead of the war on cancer, the focus will need to be, how do we keep, because cancer wants to live as much as the person does. How do you end up with a scenario in which there's a mutually beneficial thing and that neither dies, but they live together? It was not done with Israel and the Arabs, and God only knows that cancer and human existence have been counter to one another since the beginning of dawn. But I can't help but think it's just like AIDS, and it's not easy. If you know anybody who has HIV, the pills, and they've really narrowed it down, so you would take 1 or 2 pills, and all those drugs are contained in the cocktail is contained to those 1 or 2 pills. But there's still a tremendous amount of side effects with that. But they've gotten to the point where people live close to natural life expectancy with the HIV virus. So
Yeah.
I just hope that that's something that comes to pass. Got people like Jim Donovan, and no, the radio broadcast, it's nothing against Chris Rose. I wasn't real wild about him on the pregame, the preseason games, but
He's better than Jeff Phelps.
yeah, right.
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
well, Jeff Phelps is, the permanent studio guy, but no, the excitement that of Jim Donovan dancing around the press box while things are happening. Yeah, you're going to have to get used to something new and not expect the same kind of thing. And here's another quote that I think is interesting. The measure of a good team isn't just winning, it's how many different ways you can win. The great quote may have been the only great quote from Dr. Ferdy Pacheco, who was the medical doctor, if you want to call him that, for Muhammad Ali and Ali's corner, along with Angelo Dundee, was Muhammad Ali knows 1,000 ways to win, and he knows no way to lose. And there are teams that just have that knack, that they have the ability, the confidence. And, if you can win in bad weather, if you can win in good weather with high winds, there are so many factors that can change a game. Injuries and depth. If you find ways to win, if the defense picks up the offense because their quarterback is down, it's amazing. Good teams know and find a way to win. And again, it is far off, but that's the other thing. If you can turn the faucet off at the source, that's the other way, and that's a much more scientific approach. But again, the way the Browns won is great, because that could be an excuse that we would make after the fact. But it was no excuse at all, and there are never any excuses on game day. And for those people who say, well, Deshaun Watson wasn't what we were hoping for. You want downfield passing. Look, I have yet to see in Kevin Stefanski's entire career as a head coach with the Cleveland Browns a consistent quick strike offense capability. And there was that brief moment when Baker Mayfield was winging the ball all over the field, but he turned him into Kirk Cousins in a big hurry. And the problem with the quarterbacks that we had, and it was with Jacoby Brissett, it was with Baker Mayfield, and with Joshua Dobbs, who was unimpressive in his debut with the Arizona Cardinals, a lack of mobility. You got to have mobility. And Deshaun Watson helped win that game with his legs. Yep. That draw play was beautifully designed, and he did what he was supposed to do. The 2-point conversion was amazing. He got the ball across the goal line. That was pure want-to. Another scramble where he tried to run through a tackle, and he spun around one guy and hit and spun around another. That's sheer want-to. And you can say... Go ahead.
The draw play that they designed to score the touchdown in the end zone, I think they said that was an audible.
Yeah, there were 2 plays. All right. And I did get clarification about this, because they don't talk about this. I noticed at the line, a couple of times he's calling things out. Very often there are 2 plays being called in his headset. And the 2 that he was given, when he saw the way that they were lined up defensively, he audibilized into the other one and called his own number. And that turned out to be the right thing to do. And it's an extra weapon that you have in your backfield. You don't want to use it, without discretion, because he'll get hurt. But at the same time, he can make nothing into something. Baker Mayfield couldn't do that. And we are not traditionally a break the game open with the long pass kind of team. That's what the Dolphins looked like yesterday. My goodness, Tua had a game. Now, if he can stay healthy, that's the question with Tua. But
it's not just the Dolphins dominating offensively. It's also the ineptitude of the Chargers.
Well, I mean, again, there was a Bengals fan who got all over my case before the game when I said I don't think Zach Taylor's a good coach. And he took them to the Super Bowl. What are you talking about? I say, no, the wind took them to the Super Bowl. The great draft that the front office got for the team took them to the Super Bowl. I mean, you start getting guys like Burrow and Chase. I mean, and these guys coming on board all at once. It's that's big stuff. But there's nothing that Zach Taylor's ever done that was a brilliant call that I've seen. And there have been a lot of head scratchers, So that's my feeling about that. Zach Taylor is not the kind of coach who makes a team better. And as far as the Browns are concerned, I'm hoping that Deshaun Watson can buy some additional time. The rap on Deshaun Watson is he holds on to the ball too long, takes too many sacks, did in Texas. And you could see signs of that yesterday as well. But honestly, if he can see somebody breaking into the open field and buy himself extra moments with his legs, that's a great thing to have. Tyreek Hill was a beast. And as far as Elijah Moore is concerned, we'll see. We're going to see what the story is, what kind of hands he has. I know he's quick out of his break, and I know they want to use him in a way would be like Travis Benjamin was, but maybe I don't know if that's a fair, comparison, because Travis Benjamin was returning punts as well. But yeah, using him in the slot, using him wide, using him in the backfield. It gives Stefanski at least more trick plays that he can run. And of course, that gives him a Woody.
I'll be honest. Outside of that one really stupid time when they went for it on 4th down, I don't really think there was nothing wrong with the play calling yesterday.
I can't say that at all. I would say that at the beginning we were passing the ball too much, and that was the initial game plan that was put together by Stefanski. I thought that the one thing that was the quarterback draw, and I don't know, and again, I dig with my hooves to find out. It's like that's interesting. I don't remember seeing the trips on the right side of the line and then having the running back make a fourth. And the reason is we haven't seen it before. And the reason that we were seeing it was that it was added to the playbook on Saturday.
Yep. I heard that. Yeah.
By Van Pelt.
Yep.
So, hats off to AVP. Hats off. Because that play had tremendous importance. Getting ahead in that game, that weather was huge. And with the problems we've had in the red zone, that was a breath of fresh air.
What else was crazy to me? Out of all the people who would have caught his first touchdown pass of the season, who would have suspected Harrison Bryant was going to be the one that would have caught it?
But you know something? Again, the previous plays, it was just Chubb slamming into the line, and they were getting manhandled.
Yep.
And that's like, and so they lined up, and that was just a basic, release. The guy gets to the line of scrimmage like he's going to be a blocker, peels off. James Hudson was in the game.
Yep.
Hudson blocked. Harrison Bryant peeled out on the quick out, and there was no time for the linebacker to find him. So, and it's really funny. Now the headlines are, should the Bengals, Chiefs, and Seahawks be worried after week 1? And this is what I say. The press has something to do with this too. If somebody gets to a point where if they're losing a couple of games early in the year, the players will stop believing, because you can't ignore the press. It's all around you. It will find you.
To be honest, I I think the Seahawks should. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't know after one game. All I know is I watched my team play, and all I wanted to see was that they played at full speed and they played hard. Done. This was not a half-assed three-quarter speed Browns team that was coming out of the training camp and into the regular season, like we've seen.
I'm watching on the news. Smuckers bought out Hostess.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Does that mean Hostess is in a jam?
Ba-dum-bum.
Thank you. Hey, with a name like Smuckers, it has to be good. All right.
Yep.
Orville, Ohio.
Oh yeah.
So they'll be the new name on the Ho-Ho's box.
I always love to grab me some Ho-Hos.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you keep setting your phone off like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not against bringing things back from earlier, either.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I read this earlier in the chat room that Disney and Charter have stricken a deal. That word
Yes,
stricken, they struck a deal.
they came back on about noon. The only difference is they took Freeform off the lineup.
I don't understand.
The Freeform channel that it used to be ABC Family back in the day. Then they changed it to Freeform.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, that's one of the channels they own. They took that off the lineup.
Why?
I don't know. I didn't read the details of the deal, but all I know is in order to bring it back, that's one of the channels they took off.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's good news. That's good news because having ESPN blacked out wasn't working. Meanwhile, the Packers are suddenly very high on Jordan Love. It wasn't that his numbers popped totally, but they played a very good game. The Bears, yeah, and it wasn't that Justin Fields played a bad game, but
I don't think they have any idea what to build around them.
Yeah, that's the problem in Chicago. In Green Bay, I think that Jordan Love played within himself, 222 yards, something like that. And I want to say he completed 17 out of 27 passes, something like that. But put 38 points on the board, and that's significant. There's not much left. I mean, I could piss on the Steelers, and I'm not gonna.
I could say this interesting tidbit about the Steelers. I heard a statement somebody wrote on Twitter that said the main reason why the Steelers keep their same philosophy offensively and they won't change is because the Rooneys pretty much make it a strict thing that they want the offense to be run that way. They want to be just completely run heavy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no different than the analytics people, and whoever's got the pull in the organization, that's what it's going to be. For those people who said, and by the way, Tristan Thompson has signed a 1-year deal, probably his final year with the Cavaliers. Yeah, and which is ceremonial, and get a little bit of a harder nosed guy to teach some of these younger guys not to get pushed around like they did in the Knicks series. But for those people who are saying, if we'd have just held on to Kevin Porter Jr., well, he's charged with assault and strangulation. Yeah. Yep. So he ain't going to be anywhere on a court anytime soon.
Well, he's going to be in a court.
He's bad news. And he was bad news when he was in Cleveland. That's why they gave up on him. He's absolute danger to society. And, meanwhile, Andy Reid was shocked or surprised by Kadarius Toney's drops against the Lions. He was kind of blaming himself, Andy Reid, saying, I maybe let him come back too soon. And maybe he was thinking about other things and catching the ball because he was
thinking about other things. He was thinking about trashing the Giants because that's what he did when they lost last night.
Well, I mean, that's entirely possible. But the word is that Kadarius Toney, had a good end of the year coming over to the Chiefs, but he missed everything in the preseason. It was maybe a rush job getting him back. Maybe they expected too much too soon. We'll see how that plays out, but he doesn't have a history of dropping a lot of passes. But that's what happened. And the last thing by the way, WWE Hall of Famer is recovering after emergency surgery.
Which one is it?
Jim Hacksaw Duggan.
Yeah, that I did see.
Yep. And we don't know exactly what happened to him, but you can only imagine when the business is the business that he's in.
Yeah, I'm kind of the big wrestling guy here, so.
I'm not, but I mean, hey-oh! I mean, everybody knows Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I mean, that's
yes.
I want to finish out the program today. Ke'Bryan Hayes, who's a player for the Pittsburgh Pirates, pleaded with Major League Baseball on Sunday to please institute the automated ball or robot umpire system after an obvious missed call. But yeah, and we've seen so much of this of umpires having their own strike zones when it is identified, defined, and but this has been going on for decades. I want to tell this story because I believe that the umpires union should be dissolved by Major League Baseball and get these men off the field because it's too much pressure on the gambling end. There's too much weird shit going on, and there's too much arrogance. A 3-1 pitch that was not even close. He should have walked, gotten to first base, but instead the umpire called it a strike. So the next pitch he has to swing at, and he strikes out. All right.
Yep.
I told him that as an umpire, he's accountable for this. And here was the umpire's response to him. Are you ready?
All right.
I gave you a chance to hit a home run.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I called a bad pitch a strike just to give you another chance to hit a home run. I swear to God. I mean, somebody should take that motherfucker out. I mean, the next game he umpires in, cleats up and take him out.
Yep.
There's just no, I mean, these guys are not the game. They're not the fucking game. Hey, Hammer Time, last second jumping in, huh?
Hey, I just got to say hi. It's a victory Monday.
It sure is.
We're undefeated. All hope is still here.
Savor the moment. But as far as the umpires are concerned, they're there to call balls and strikes. They're not the star of the show. They should not be allowed to speak to players that way. They're a small little fish in a pond full of much bigger fishes. And honest to God, I mean, I am so through with Major League Baseball. They can try to change the speed of the game, but as long as those fat men, old men, incompetent people who have seniority continue to call these games and have enough arrogance to tell somebody something like that, you got to be done with it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm done. Thanks for jumping in, Hammer Time. and thanks to David Talevsky again. Thank you. And thank you everybody for visiting today. Sorry about the change of location on the show, but by rebooting this modem, things got okay. So the problem is not on StreamYard's end. It is a problem with either the router or something within Spectrum. And I know, and they deny it. So they can fuck themselves, just like the umpire. But, and thank you for the support on the halftime and post-game show. That means the world to me. We're going to be up by the time this is done to 1,500 views, which for this program, which is a small program, unpromoted, makes me feel like, hey, this is what brings me back and keeps me doing this year after year. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you again at the end of the week as we get prepared for Monday Night Football and the Steelers. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night. Moo.